handmade, bespoke magnetic planar from Verum 1, all the way from Ukraine. And I need to decide whether this will replace my HiFiMan Sundara here. My favorite magnetic planar, my staple go-to magnetic planar. And the key thing is that both of them are priced similarly. Price at 349 US dollar. There are 3 options being given, and the one that I have in my hand right now is called Zebrano, and the other 2 options being Bubinga and carbon fiber if you wish something a bit more discreet. The driver here, let me just show you. Yeah, so easy to detach. The pads, which seems to me like a Valor pad, which is also angle, pretty much similar to HiFiMan Sundara as well, or even Aune SR7000. And these are the 82mm huge magnetic planar wafer, which is surprisingly rated very low at 8 ohm with the sensitivity at around 96 dB. Let's just get back to this HiFiMan Sundara here. Most people would know that this HiFiMan Sundara comes in 32 ohm and also with the sensitivity of at around 92 dB. So on paper, this Sundara here seems to be harder to drive than Verum 1, but we'll talk a bit more on that after this. HiFiMan Sundara, which many people would be familiar with, its weight at around 525 gram. Whoa, almost like 200 gram heavier. Okay, and to get a bit of perspective, what's the normal weight of normal headphone like this Sennheiser HD600? 394. As noted earlier, it is heavy and it is constructed entirely of metal, the headband here, which seems to be steel to me, and you have an adjustment here which will allow you to go up and down. I have already adjusted to my head, and here you see this, very interesting, right? It's some sort of a pivot which will allow you to change the angle of the headphone, which I find really useful. As you can see, these are the 3.5mm termination, right? And this is left. Connect it like that. Done. So we are ready to connect. Perhaps the heaviest headphone which I have in my collection now. But you want to know what? For the last 2 months I have been using it. I am not complaining anymore. For as long as you get used to the weight, after a while using it regularly, this thing is surprisingly super comfortable because of this pivot thing here, okay, which will allow you to adjust to the right angle. And also the pads here, which is angle as well, seems to be super comfortable, circumaural, and I was able to sit on my PC there, on my desk, listening to music, watching movies and playing game up to 4 hours, 5 hours, no issue at all, no fatigue at all. So with just 8 ohm of impedance and sensitivity of 96, I would consider that as super efficient for a full-size magnetic planar. The question now is that what kind of power needed to run this Verum 1 properly. I have been using it quite extensively with my Class A amplifier here, which is Burson Audio Playmate 2 with V7 op-amp, and this thing is capable of delivering in excess of 3000 milliwatt of power at 32 ohm. And you can imagine that at this 8 ohm headphone, I only needed a volume of 10 out of 100 for proper listening loudness. That is crazy efficient. So in comparison, this HiFiMan Sundara attached to the same amplifier, I would need around 20 to 22 out of 100. So you can see the difference there, that this Verum 1 is, at least on the headroom, on the volume side, it is 10 steps more efficient than Sundara. So does it mean also that this Verum 1, you can run it straight from a phone like this, Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV, which is 3.5mm single-ended termination? And my answer is yes, because if you were to do that with this Sundara here to this phone, no go. No go. It's just not enough volume for anything casual even. But for this Verum 1, I was able to use it. I have to crank the volume all the way to 90 out of 100, and I would say that the sound itself is usable, but don't expect the best of performance because it is nowhere near as good as when attached to this or even to this tube amplifier of X-Duo XD05T. Two of these simply amazing with Verum 1. The question now, this Verum 1, does it have what it takes to replace my HiFiMan Sundara here? My staple go-to magnetic planar headphone for the last 1 year. And my short answer would be a resolute yes. And I will explain why. First and foremost, this Verum 1 is a lot easier, simpler and less demanding to drive, as I have shown you earlier, in comparison to this Sundara here. And both of them admittedly are still considered as easy to drive when you compare with more demanding magnetic planar headphone. But then again, if I were to use this Verum 1 with some of my favorite dongle like iBasso DC07 Pro or even Onyx Alpha, then I am pretty sure that I'm getting 100% out of those combination. But if I do that with this Sundara, then I feel that I am getting only perhaps 90% at best if I were to compare it as when driven with this, something like this, or even my Burson Audio Playmate 2. So that alone is already a winner for me. And then the next one, tonality and timbre, which is super important to me. If you're familiar with magnetic planar, especially HiFiMan magnetic planar, in comparison to this Verum 1, this is more organic sounding. This is more natural sounding. It sounded more like a dynamic driver kind of timbre rather than magnetic planar, but it does have that magnetic planar kind of speed. So both of them are super fast with transient and everything, but this one tend to be a bit brighter, tend to be a bit more metallic. And I think you understand what I'm saying if you're familiar with Sundara, especially if you attach it to natively bright sounding partners or DAC amp, then you're gonna get metallic kind of sound, and it takes something which is a bit warmer to make it a bit more natural sounding. But this one, no problem at all. You can even attach it to something which is a bit more brighter, and then it would not sound as metallic sounding as this Sundara here. They are comparable, quite comparable when it comes to resolution, imaging, and also when it comes to dynamic handling. Because both are magnetic planar, I love the way both handle the dynamic transient itself. It is fast, it is tidy, it is quite resolving, and I might even say that if I were to listen carefully on certain classical track or even technical jazz, especially when attached to my Burson Audio Playmate 2, I am able to get the kind of a bit, just a bit more crisper imaging from this Verum 1. Which means that it is slightly superior overall technically as compared to this HiFiMan Sundara, perhaps because it is a bit more efficient with the same amount of power applied to it. Last but not least is that it is more comfortable as well as compared to this Sundara despite being heavier. Because of this pivot thing, because of this pad thing, I was able to wait 4 hours no issue at all. But this Sundara here, I just gonna still feel the clamp force of that steel band on top of my head. So all in all, answering my own question, would I choose this Verum 1 over my HiFiMan Sundara? And my absolute answer is yes. I will pick this over this anytime now. If you like what you're hearing, what you're seeing, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. And also please take a moment to click like here. It will really help me out. It is free, by the way. And also please follow me on Instagram, which I have set up very recently. My Instagram will be a platform for me to provide quick updates on the things that I do beyond this video. And again, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.